Apparently, the state audits did not pick up the forms that should have been filed, that the business office did not file. So apparently our state audits aren't that great either. And I recommend that we tape the meetings, as Ted Kramer did many years ago. He had his little cassette recorder, and when the tape was full, up went his hand, we took a time out, he changed the tape, and we continued with the meetings. And I believe that we should continue to do that, or we should start again doing that. What would happen then, the next few days, his secretary would transcribe the tapes. We always had the tape. We also had it in writing to check. I know we record, but there is nothing quite like having the cassette tapes in the business office or somewhere in that administration building to backtrack and check and see just what did happen.
Ms. Hamilton, I can tell you that Ms. Claus takes pretty copious notes. It's just like having a recorder.
Nothing beats a tape. Thank you. I have nothing against Fran. However, I do believe the best way to do it is with a tape recorder. I also see on one of these pages that we have are accepting back in a student on page 9 at the bottom. Had this student been released from our attendance records, or what's the history?
This is to approve an adjudication hearing.
Okay. And I am glad to see that we have 44 students that we are taking out of the district for apparently not living here or whatever.
Well, they haven't re-verified according to our residency re-verification, Ms. Hamilton, but we're hoping that they will do so quickly. They've been sent several notices to re-verify their address, and they haven't responded. So we're hoping that following this meeting that mostly all of them will verify their address.
Basically, the rule is that if they don't, out the door. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Hamilton.
Good evening. Lauren Pizzo, 2265 Weir Road. One question: Who does the Chief Financial Officer report to?
The superintendent.
Okay, thank you.
Hi, Lori Duncan, Sherwood Lane. You brought up the bus thing about the new safety rules that they're going to put in effect. Did I hear it clearly that it's safer to put higher backs on buses than it is to walk? Is that busing is
I can give you a copy. You can actually have this if you want.
Okay, I like to read that, but I think that's what I heard. But I sent an email to Mr. Steinhoff. I wanted to know if all of you has received it with the criteria from PennDOT. He said he was going to forward it all to you. Did you read it? How many?
Yes, I read it.
Okay.
Yeah, that was the one that had all the documentation. It was a several hundred-page PDF.
The one that I narrowed down to the specific page and emailed back and said, you really have to read it in its totality. You can't extract 1 sentence. This whole thing, if you read it carefully, and I'll be happy to sit down with you and go over it, links the one statement that you extracted. It actually is if you have this and this scenario. It's not just that one sentence, and I'll sit down with you and explain that to you, but it's not really interpreted the way that you had in your email.
Okay, well, my email just said to read it, okay, that's all
I
it
did
said
read
to-
it.
Okay, well, I talked to PennDOT, okay, and they said that they received a letter indicating that they just want to get sidewalks checked, that's it. They didn't look at any of the other criterias.
But if they come, the criteria that's in there, if they come and do it, that's what they're guided by.
They have to be asked to do it, they were told.
And they have to be, and what's in that document is what they are guided by.
But you didn't ask them to do it.
Right, but if you read the document, it's really not what you have in your email, what I think you think it says.
No, I talked to PennDOT, okay?
If
I
they're,
don't, I'm not a lawyer, so I don't know what you're talking about. I'm going by what PennDOT told me. PennDOT told me their criteria look going a little further. They were only asked to look at sidewalks. Yes, we do have sidewalks.
And
They
if
were
they
not
were-
asked to look at the shoulder of the road. They were not asked to look at how many vehicles go by in a certain period of time. They were not asked to do any of that. They need in writing to be asked by the school board to come reevaluate the school.
and if they were asked to do that, they are guided by that document which you forwarded to us, which has a lot of end clauses in it. It's not just one sentence that you can pull out and set aside. That's what I was trying to explain to
Okay,
you.
well, are you going to ask PennDOT to resurvey it?
Well, that's the one thing I wanted to mention. Since that time, we have completed the forms. My office contacted Don Santafonte.
Yes.
I think you may have spoken with him as well.
Yes, I have.
He indicated complete the form again, send it back to him. He said that's the next step, to go back and re-review what they've looked at. And I've also expressed to Mr. Grower my request that I participate in that review so that I can actually see what they're assessing. So
Okay,
we have, at this point, we've completed the forms and done exactly what Mr. Santafonte has indicated we need to do to have another assessment of it.
Okay, and it's going to indicate more than just look at the sidewalks for us.
I actually asked that he fax the forms we need to complete to have a review of this bus run, and they're the ones that we completed.
Okay, now, are you just going to do our bus run, or are you going to do Bridgewater, are you going to do, what ones are you doing?
I haven't sent him a particular review request for every single bus run in our district. So when he comes out, that we'll have a discussion of what would it entail for him to actually look at all of the bus runs. But, we started by saying, can you look again at this one, make sure that your assessment conforms with your statement that it is a non-hazardous route.
Okay, well, maybe, I don't think all the bus routes need to be, surveyed. I think the 1.5, what you're saying is, then maybe all those need to be assessed if they're hazardous. And I'd like to know the outcome of it, and
Sure.
I'm sure everybody else would.
Absolutely.
All right, thank you.
Ms. Saunders?
Hi, Judy Saunders, 62 East Chelton Road. A question with regard to Mrs. Spiridomondo's question. The CFO obviously reports to the superintendent. Who does the solicitor report to? Would that be to the board, or would that be to the superintendent and the board?
Mike, you want to take this one? I think it's.
I'm sorry,
I would
it's
say
your
the
night.
board.
There's different levels to answer that question on. Under the rules of ethics, which govern the practice of law, the client is the district as a legal entity, a corporate type of entity. I represent the district. I don't represent the board. I don't represent the superintendent. I don't represent any of the administrators. However, I have to report to people. And depending upon the nature of the issue, that will dictate who I report to. Sometimes, and in some matters, I report to the CFO. Traditionally, that would be things like transactional issues when we review contracts, issues of governance where the CFO is the board secretary, and there's the issues as to how the board is to govern. There are times when I report to the superintendent. There are times when I report to the director of human resources if we have a personnel item. And there are times that I make reports directly to the school board. So the answer, if you're looking for an organizational chart and where the placement of a solicitor is, and it's a dotted line, not a straight line, so to speak. Okay?